us live from Bangkok. Moments ago, the Asian Development Bank projects that tariff uncertainties will drive economies in developing Asia and the Pacific to grow 4.9% this year, down from 5% last year. The ADB's Asian Development Outlook for April describes the U.S. tariffs as a headwind that will bring down regional growth to 4.7% in 2026. The report also forecasts inflation to moderate at 2.3% this year and 2.2% next year. And the Asia-Pacific will be resilient because of solid domestic demand and strong appetite for semiconductors driven by the AI boom. But the ADB warns of risks brought about by President Donald Trump's economic policies. ADB Chief Economist Albert Park says Asian economies should remain committed to open trade, which have supported the region's growth and resilience. 104%. That is the total duties that the U.S. will charge on Chinese goods as President Trump's reciprocal tariffs take effect Wednesday, midnight U.S. time. That's in less than 3 hours here in Manila. China is facing a 34% reciprocal tariff and an additional 50% for refusing to back out from the retaliatory duty that it hit on U.S. goods. This is on top of the 20% levy previously imposed due to the fentanyl crisis. Beijing vows to fight until the end in what the government sees as the U.S.'s, quote, mistake after mistake.
The actions of the U.S. side have not demonstrated any genuine willingness for serious dialogue. If it persists in disregarding the common interest of both countries and the international community and insists on escalating the trade and tariff conflict, China will, as always, fight to the end.
U.S. officials made the rounds Tuesday to defend Trump's tariffs, which have rattled global equity markets in recent days. Vice President J.D. Vance called Chinese workers, quote, peasants, to underscore that the U.S.'s economic model has harmed its own workers. Beijing calls Vance's remarks ignorant and disrespectful. At the U.S. Senate, Trade Representative Jamieson Greer made it clear that there are no exceptions to Trump's tariffs in the near term.
The President has been clear with me and with others that he does not intend to have exclusions and exemptions, especially given the nature of the action. If you have Swiss cheese in the action, it can undermine the overall point, which is to get rid of the deficit, achieve reciprocity.
White House spokesperson Carolyn Leavitt says more than 70 countries have reached out to the White House to begin trade negotiations. Despite assurances from the Trump administration, Americans are worried by the looming tariff effects. In a Reuters Ipsos poll conducted between April 4 to 5, 57% opposed the duties, including a quarter of Republicans. Nearly 3/4 think the tariffs will raise the price of goods in the next 6 months. And U.S. markets ended Tuesday's volatile session with a loss after optimism over trade talks fades. The Dow rose early by 1,400 points before declining by 0.8% at the 4 p.m. close. S&P 500 hit an intraday high of more than 4%, only to close in the red by 1.5%, happening for the first time ever since 1978. As for the Nasdaq, it dropped by over 2% after rallying early on by more than 4% since the first since 1982. Let's take a look at the benchmark 10-year Treasury yields. They have settled to 4.26%. You can see here from the previous close of 4.16%. And gold prices have notched up to $2,984 per troy ounce. That's just under the $3,000 mark. As for Asia and the Pacific markets, they have gained on Tuesday, except for Taiwan's TAIEX index. We're seeing a red arrow there. Australia's ASX 200 up by over 2%. South Korea's Kospi inched higher by 0.2%. And Japan's Nikkei 225 surged by 6%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rebounded by 1.5% after Monday's 13% fall. China's CSI 300 rallied by 1.7%. And Taiwan's TAIEX fell by 4%. European markets are closed higher yesterday, with the regional stock 600 and London's FTSE 100 gaining by 2.7%. And Germany's DAX and France's CAC 40 climbed by 2.5%. U.S. futures are pointing to a decline when the markets open later tonight, Manila time. Take a look at the Dow, the S&P, and the Nasdaq, all with red arrows there, falling 1.5% for the Dow, S&P sliding by 1.8%, and the Nasdaq shedding 2%. As the reciprocal tariffs take effect noon Manila time, Asian markets are down at the get-go this Wednesday. Let's take a look at how we're trading across the region. ASX, Kospi, and the Nikkei are all down 2% for the ASX 200, Kospi down about 0.2%, and the Nikkei 225 falling by 3%. While here in the Philippines, the PSEI returned to the 6,000 mark, recovering by 3% after Monday's massive sell-off. The Philippine peso closed stronger yesterday at 57.31, appreciating by about 12 centavos. The markets though were closed today, Wednesday, for the Araw ng Kagitingan, or Day of Valor. Now, the Department of Trade and Industry says it is open to lowering tariffs on U.S. goods. This comes after Trump imposed a 17% reciprocal tariff on Philippine exports. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque says the country's economic team will soon meet to finalize its next move. She also said the government is looking to coordinate with ASEAN countries to form a collective stand on the tariffs. Compared with its regional neighbors, the Philippines faces one of the lowest U.S. tariffs next to Singapore. Local firms like EMS Group say they will be cautious with investments due to the uncertainty, but also see the country's relatively lower tariff putting it in, quote, good position to secure future investments. Cebu-based fuel retailer Topline listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange's main board yesterday, Tuesday, raising over 732 million pesos to fund its expansion plans. Topline ended Tuesday's session at 30 centavos from the offer price of 31 centavos per share. Both PSE President and CEO Ramon Monzon and Topline's Eric Lim had these to say against the backdrop of the biggest drops in the world's markets.
Less than 60 seconds to go.
Global markets tumbled yesterday as a result of Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, or as some call it, Liquidation Day tariffs. Less than stellar market conditions and every imaginable headwinds are among the realities that publicly listed firms have to contend with. But I believe Topline can navigate these headwinds in the financial markets. It knows firsthand about seizing opportunities during tough times.
So for us in Topline, we think it's not really that much in terms of pricing, especially for the fuel products, since at the end of the day, we've been importing ever since. So the Philippines is a net importing country. So yeah, so fundamentals are still there.
Well, with us now for more is Japheth Tantiangco, Research Manager at PhilStocks Financial. Good seeing you again, Japheth, and thank you for taking time out of our national holiday.
You're very much welcome, Ma'am Cathy. Good to see you too.
Well, what do you make of Topline's debut yesterday?
Well, yesterday Topline's IPO it did decline, but I believe that this is more on because of general market sentiment. Whilst the general market did rebound, we do take into consideration the lingering fears with respect to the global economy, and I believe this has been absorbed by Topline, but this could be in the short term only. We've looked into the fundamentals of the company, and so far it's good. Valuations wise, I mean, we did relative valuation with Petron and Shell, and we're seeing it good for Topline. So over the long run, there's still the possibility that the price would appreciate.
All right, looking at the broader market, I see that we're back above 6,000 after 3 straight days of decline. How significant is this ahead of the Bangko Central's decision tomorrow?
Well, yesterday's rise, it's mainly attributed to bargain hunting. We just saw a technical bounce. Yes, the expectations that the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas will ease policy rates tomorrow, some way somehow, it had an effect. It had a positive effect. But moving forward, there's still a lot of uncertainties. Technically speaking, 6,000 is seen as a crucial level. So we'll see what happens next. Tomorrow it's expected that the 6,000 would be tested. If the market is able to sustain ground above 6,000, then this will remain as its support. But if it goes below 6,000, then this will be a resistance, whereas 5.8 will be the next support.
Would 25 bips of a cut alone sustain the rally?
Unfortunately, that's something. Unfortunately for us, no. Given that when we did our outlook for this week, we said that when we did our outlook for this week, we expected investors to weigh two things. Number one would be the expected 25 basis points rate cut from the BSP. Number two would be the lingering worries over the global economy due to the ongoing U.S. protectionist policies. And as we saw in the first 2 days of trading, we saw which one took over, which one dominated sentiment, and that was the lingering worries over the global economy. And as we saw, there seems to be, a further escalation as U.S. President Donald Trump is, threatening more tariffs against China, something which China is seemingly not planning on backing down with. And with the prospects of this trade war further escalating, it might over it might overshadow the BSP's 25 basis
What if
points, the expected
50
25 basis
basis
points
point
rate
of a
cut
cut,
tomorrow.
would that sustain
Yep.
the rally? A 50 basis point of a cut?
A 50 basis points possible. If the BSP goes more aggressive, then it could help the local market bounce back. I mean, given all that's happening within the global economy, we'll need to see more power from the domestic side, and I believe a 50 basis point will help in that. Or if not a 50 basis point rate cut, at least if we can see a more dovish policy outlook from the BSP tomorrow, once they convene. If they provide, a more dovish outlook with respect to their policy direction, then I believe that will also help.
Oh, got that. Thank you so much for keeping us up to speed. I'll let you go now to enjoy your national holiday. Japet Tantiangco, Research Manager at PhilStocks Financial.
You're very much welcome, Cathy.
And more conversations coming up here on Money Talks. Donald Lim of Global AI Council Philippines will talk about making AI knowledge and tools accessible to Filipinos. And a discussion on climate change and tariffs. Mon Abrea of ACG joins us in the program. Keep it here on One News. Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Here are the headlines from around the globe. In the Dominican Republic, over 60 people are dead and 160 injured after a roof of an iconic nightclub collapsed early Tuesday. The roof of the one-story Jet Set nightclub in the capital of Santo Domingo fell during a musical performance attended by politicians, athletes, and other public figures. Investigators are still determining the cause of the collapse. In Europe, the sweltering heat this March is the warmest on record. The EU's Copernicus Climate Change Service says in a monthly bulletin, globally, March 2025 is the second warmest ever, exceeded only by March 2024. For the past 20 months, the average global temperature is over 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial times, driven by greenhouse gas emissions from burning fossil fuels. And in the U.S., Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is using artificial intelligence to detect perceived disloyalty among workers at the Environmental Protection Agency. According to Reuters, Doge is using AI to monitor employee messages, looking for language considered hostile to Trump and Musk. Experts worry that the information gathered with AI could be used to further Trump or Musk's interests or to go after their political targets. A new research reveals that 3 out of 4 e-commerce sellers in Southeast Asia still need support to adopt artificial intelligence. A Lazada report shows only 1 in 4 sellers are considered AI ready, while the rest still struggle to shift from manual work to tech-driven systems. 68%, or about 7 out of 10 sellers, know about AI, but only 37% use it in their operations. In terms of AI readiness, Indonesia and Vietnam lead AI usage in the region, followed closely by Singapore and Thailand. To help the sellers, Lazada is launching an AI playbook to guide them through adoption with tools like smart product optimization, auto translations, and a built-in AI assistant. The real winner of the AI race may not be the country that invests or invents the best models, writes The Economist, but will more likely be the country where governments, businesses, and ordinary folks use AI at scale every single day. Our next guest is the founding president of the Global AI Council Philippines, with the aim of democratizing AI knowledge and tools, providing accessibility for all. With us now for more is Donald Lim. Good to see you, Donald. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Cathy. Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, before we get into AI, and as it's been in the news since April 2nd, how are you seeing Trump's tariffs impacting the development of AI? Because China, for instance, imports $10 billion worth of chips from the U.S. every single year.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see a lot, very, very interesting take by Donald Trump. We know he's very open to the crypto, but AI, I think they're going to face heavy challenges from the China front. So I don't know if this is going to be in retaliation of that, right? So that's first. Secondly, we're going to see a lot of businesses moving towards that space. No, so that's why we're saying, no, it's the next Cold War. It's a AI war between US, between China. We don't know what Europe is doing right now, but it's going to be heavy on which industries would be able to capitalize, no, and make sense of AI. ChatGPT versus DeepSeek, and among many others. We're going to see more and more of those coming in.
For sure, but one assurance that we got from the U.S. Commerce Secretary himself is that Trump and his team did not use AI to assemble that sweeping list of reciprocal tariffs. But from the perspective of cybersecurity, experts that I've spoken with say, with just over a month to go to the midterm elections, fake news generated by AI have proliferated, and that the new ballgame is getting good AI from letting bad AI get away. So how is the Global AI Council Philippines addressing this pressing issue?
We're going to push a lot of educational campaign. In fact, we've seen already a lot of DeepSeek penetrating into our social media platforms. So that's going to be very challenging. For us professionals, not all of us, even the professionals who are more educated, have already succumbed to pressing a link or understand or they believe in videos that are AI generated. What more? You're talking about the masses. So a lot of deep seek videos, a lot of videos have been created And we're going to see more and more of this proliferate in the social media spaces. So we do a lot of awareness. We're creating a lot of educational campaigns, especially we're telling even politicians to be aware. So in a way, there's self-policing in a way because they check each other, but we see a lot of social media. If you look at our social media page right now, it's a lot of AI happening, a lot of good, but also a lot of what we call fake AI that's out there.
Yeah, we got to be on the good side of AI, but thank you so much for the advice there. Donald Lim of the Global AI Council joining us. Coming up after the break, we'll show you movies you can catch in local cinemas beginning today. Stay with us on Money Talks on One News.
They chose me for a reason.
Shot at tequila never kill anybody, right?
Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Heads up, Meralco consumers, get ready to pay more for electricity this month. The power distributor says higher generation and transmission charges are behind the increase. Meralco Vice President and Head of Corporate Communications, Joe Zaldariaga, says the increase is linked to higher prices at the wholesale electricity spot market and power plant outages. Prices at the WESM rose by nearly 96% as supply dropped and demand increased. Transmission charges are also expected to rise, but a 20 billion peso refund may help reduce the impact by about 20 centavos per kilowatt hour for residential customers. Invest, invest, invest. That is the mantra of Philippine diplomats and their allies in this age of an escalating trade war. Our next guest is soon off to an investment briefing in 25 states and countries in partnership with the Philippine Trade and Investment Centers, Philippine embassies, and foreign embassies, as well as local organizations. The goal, to promote investment opportunities here in the Philippines at a time of global policy uncertainties. Well, with us now for more, the author of his recently launched book, Reimagining the World Without Climate Change, ACG founder and CEO Mon Abrea, joining us live from Bangkok. Sawadee ka. Good morning, Mon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good
and
morning,
congratulations
Cathy.
on
Nice
your
to
book.
see you again.
Yeah, you know, we were catching you right at the start of your global roadshow. I believe it began a week ago in Seoul,
Yes.
and then Japan 2 days ago. I hope you've seen the Hanami. And now you're in
Yes.
Thailand, going now to Singapore and Vietnam in the next few
Yes.
days. With the
So we're
exception of
doing the
Singapore,
briefing tomorrow here in Bangkok.
right? You know, these are all of the countries that have been slapped even higher tariffs compared to the Philippines. So what are your conversations like there in Bangkok, for instance, a city just recently racked by a powerful quake and now slapped with tariffs north of 35%?
Well, as we always say, Cathy, given all these geopolitical conditions that we are witnessing, the Philippines remains to be the more sustainable and strategic investment destination. Although we have quite some challenges that we have to deal with internationally and locally, we are more or less on the road to make sure that we are business as usual and investments.
And from your perspective, I see that it's all about how businesses can lead the fight against climate change. So how are we getting on so far with the Philippine corporates on that front?
Well, in the Philippines, we have slowly seen those which are publicly listed to start embracing sustainability reports, ESG principles in their not just in their corporate bylaws, but also in their mantra, in their corporate social responsibility and other initiatives. But what we are looking at now is particularly on the fast industries. I'm referring to fashion, film, arts, AI, agriculture, and sustainable cities, communities, and of course, travel and tourism industries. We call it the fast industries. We would want the world to see, particularly Europe, Middle East, to invest on ESG-driven industries so that the Philippines can both benefit not just in protecting our planet from climate change, but also in getting more foreign investments.
Right, that's a good silver lining there. But before you go, Mon, as it's that month of April again, and income tax return filing is coming due on the 15th, what do you advise our taxpayers out there and the tax evaders, if you will?
First, to all our taxpayers, there is an online platform. Please don't wait for April 15. As we all know, there's so much disruption or technical challenges in dealing with the electronic filing and payment system of the BIR if all of us file all at the same time. But you know, Cathy, since the last administration, we have seen a drastic growth or increase in online filing up to more than 90%. So we are expecting the same thing. But more than that, we hope that more MSMEs will be compliant, while more MNCs or bigger corporations, including Chinese corporations, to actually pay the right taxes. Otherwise, the BIR will be very much ready and aggressive to chase after them. And as we all say, we still want the BIR to prosecute. We want to see tax evaders behind bars. We haven't seen that since forever, Cathy. So whether they are a politician or a foreign investor or a local or a Filipino, if they are violating our tax code, we want them to we want them to be prosecuted, not just to pay the penalties. And if they are in public office, we want them to be perpetually be disqualified in assuming any public office, whether elected or appointed.
Well, we'll keep putting out the message out there to pay your taxes. Safe travels where you go. Mon Abria of ACG, thank you so much for joining us. It is a holiday today, and if you are looking for new movies to watch, we got you covered. Here are the two movies hitting local cinemas today. First up is The Demon Disorder. This Australian horror film finds three brothers reunited after the youngest is possessed by their late father. The siblings must now fight the demon that knows them inside and out. This movie is exclusively showing in Ayala Mall cinemas. Take a look.
He's still with us. He's coming back.
Philip.
The next thriller is Drop. A widowed mother goes on a date but is terrorized by someone threatening her son and sister. She is then instructed to end the date in a rather unconventional way. Here's a preview.
They chose me for a reason.
Shot to kill, never kill anybody, right?
So, how's this date going?
Yeah, that's my phone going off even on this holiday. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. here on One News. Have a meaningful araw ng kagitingan.